I can't draw at all, as you can see.
Perfection.
But that doesn't stop me from admiring those who can. Just look at all of this great art. So I decided to bring someone's art to life. This video is all about taking the art off the page, literally. Okay, here's the reference material. Where did I get this? Well, I didn't steal it off the internet like some bum. I did it the hood way. If we study the reference closely, we see a red-haired woman standing on top of some coffins, and those coffins are on some kind of dirt plateau. It's probably smart to do the hardest thing first, so I started with the coffins. I'm using wood, and long-time viewers would notice that this is the third time I've made something about death, and I'm okay with that. I cut the sticks to the desired scale, which was roughly 28mm-ish. Too small to be Ada scale though. On the note of cutting, I always change my blades regularly. I don't think I've ever mentioned my preferred X-Acto knife, but I use the bigger ones because my hands are manly hands. What do I do with the old blades? Well, I give them to the Mikus, of course. I placed some tape down and started to assemble the shape of the coffin. I pretty much went by eye when doing this because I didn't need to be perfect. It's a coffin after all. Speaking of coffins, has anyone thought about what type of box they would want to be buried in? Would you go simple? Maybe fancy? Or maybe plant a tree on top of you so the tree could eat you? Tell me in the comments. For me, I would want to be stuffed. Like taxidermy me into a statue and display me in public so I could scare everyone and haunt those who dared to look my dead body in the eyes. That would be so cool. Back to the build. This is the rough shape I came up with, very accurate to the stolen art. Next I glued on the face of the coffin using tacky glue and hot glue. After I hack and slash the excess off, I gave it a quick standing. Next, I scraped in some exaggerated wood grain lines that will show up better after painting. Coffin's done. Easy, right? Not so. I had to make 7 more, bringing the number to 8 coffins in total. What a joy. Okay, next up is the base on which the coffins will sit. This beautiful piece of foam will be our base, but it needs some dirt. Actually, I will not be using real dirt. Instead, I will be cooking up a classic baking soda recipe which goes something like this. Lots of baking soda, brown paint, a little water, lots of Mod Podge, and why not the rest of some old Elmer's glue. After some stirring, it looks just like cake frosting. It's not, but you could play a nasty game that I call cake roulette. I basically frosted the foam disc, making sure to dab it on to murder the brush texture. I let it dry overnight, then I gave it a nice dry brushing with a lighter brown, and it was done. Next I have to paint the coffins! Oil washes. I mixed a brown oil-based paint with paint thinner. Now I've never done this, so I don't know really what I'm doing. But to sum it up, I'm basically splashing poisonous liquid all over coffins, thus changing their dull color to a more coffin color. Yeah, that sounds right. We're going to let those crust and move on to something I can't hide from any longer. I have to sculpt the Red Lady. Okay, I started literally from the ground up. I made the general shape of her little legs and feet. Then I made her little boots.
Look at him in his wee little boots.
After a quick bake to lock the boots in, I made her cute little skirt. Working up from there, I sculpted her armor chest piece. I set that aside and worked on her arms, which were just a piece of wire for strength and some clay. They're just little noodles right now, but that will change in a second. I added the chest armor and filled it out with clay strips, and her clothing was done, more or less. Before baking, I moved her arms in the way I wanted them to be, and then baked her. Okay, her noodle arms are cute, but I needed to add some more detail, so I gave her long sleeves with a hair-thin piece of clay. Next up is the hands, and I was terrified because I didn't have a clue on how to sculpt them. As you can see, I first tried to pre-sculpt them, then attach them, but it wasn't working for me, and I started crying. But then I remembered SpongeBob's wise words.
Remember, licking doorknobs is illegal on other planets.
So I started over. This time I put a glob of clay into place and sculpted the hand using a knife and a sculpting tool. It was 10 hours of intense combat, but it worked out pretty good. I even managed to add her cut-off punk 90s gloves, which I was very happy about. Next up was her head, and I didn't even give it much thought, because the plan was to have the red hair cover it all up completely. So minimal effort was put in by me.
What on earth is that thing?
The final thing I had to do is the hair, and I had the perfect red clay for it. How I sculpted the hair was pretty basic. I started by adding some strength in the form of wire, then I added the clay, which was difficult because the clay was a lot more stickier than I anticipated, so it stuck to my hands more than anything. So after an hour of fighting with it, this is how it came out. I did actually add a face and ears, but just for a joke. I never intended for the face to be seen, but there it is. Now for painting, I did a very simple job because I don't have much experience in painting miniatures, therefore I am not good at it. So I followed the reference picture as best I could. I don't really have much to say here, other than in hindsight I should have just used colored clay. I should rephrase that. I should have not used plain white fascist clay. I should have diversified my clay colors. Right, Kawaii? That's not what I meant when I said diversify. That's just blackface. And now the two people watching this are racist. You happy now, Kawaii? With the painting done, I attached her to the nicest coffin with a paperclip. And finally, I added her cute little black crown, and she was done. I glued the rest of the coffin onto the base in a random stack order. I probably should have followed the reference picture a little more, but I didn't. Once I had them all placed and glued down, I added her on top, and while that dried, I added the skull and crossbones and the watermark to the coffins. Every piece of art needs a name, and since I stole it, I feel like I get to do that. So I'm calling it Lifeblood. Speaking of blood, that was the last thing I added before calling it done. Roll those beauty shots. Well, this was a quick build, and I think it was well worth committing a crime for. If you've seen my community posts, you all know I've been building a custom Warhammer mech, and that video will be out sometime next month, so look forward to it.
Perfection.
I should probably do a disclaimer. Everything I did in this video was make-believe, and it was all just a fever dream you were having. Well, except for me breaking into that random car and stealing the sketchbook. That was real. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later!